and really honestly, that's actually the accountability, right? You're taking accountability.
I was holding
for
her
your own,
accountable. I was
but you were accountable also to yourself, right?
Right,
And your
right.
own healing. And that's the part that I really want to drive home, right? Is that people are going to do things all the time. People are going to say things like people are going to people, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
And so that is an important part of that is us being even accountable to ourselves and
Right.
saying, I am going to show up, speak up for myself. I'm sorry, I talk with my hands on.
That's okay.
But but that is really important. So I'm really proud of you for doing that because that's the key. It's because
Right.
people aren't going to always give us those things, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to always be kind, be nice.
Right.
And
Something I've been thinking of all night is they don't have your heart. They don't, and
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that. I expect people to have the same heart that I do. I expect people to approach me with kindness because I'm approaching them with kindness or love or whatever. But they don't have your heart, and that is a truth that is something I know. That's something I know for sure.
no, it's true. And it goes back to what you said, Joe, about meeting people where they are.
Yeah, and then you said about systems, how to hold systems. So I've lived my life holding systems accountable, and it's not always the best approach. Some people don't like it, but we have to stand up and demand that those that we've put in certain positions, whether it was elected, whether it was by default, or maybe we work with them, okay? It's on us. Hey, there's an old quote that says, hey, it won't be the evil that destroys the world, it will be all those that watch it and don't say nothing, hey? And so I told you I'm Warrior Clan, and my clan duty is to look inside my community from the outside, eh? Just kind of like how I'm up on this stage and say, hey, watch out for that guy. Watch out for that chick. Watch out for this group.
Stand up right now. No, I'm
right? And to keep an eye out and to organize so
You are
that they
motioning
don't,
towards me now.
so they don't, hey, ruin that thing. But it's happening right now, right? My favorite thing is I love everybody how they DEI, diversity, diversity, diversity. It's stupid. Let me tell you why. It's the same 2 years ago, and all these politicians and everybody else across America were saying this word sustainability. Show me a frickin' plan. It's the same with diversity. Show me a frickin' plan, eh? And before I get equality, I want equity. Because without equity, my people and the rest of the BIPOC community will never get equality. So in order to do that, we have to demand for it to happen. And we had a great momentum happening during the pandemic with George Floyd. And everybody got their jobs and their unemployment checks back, and they went, gone. We have to get that momentum back. But in order to attack systems, you have to start from our local. I always tell everybody, your local elections have far more influence than any national election will ever have on your life. Okay, so libraries, school boards, road commissions, councilmen, those are where we need to demand, as well as the courts, right? Those, you know, 90% of the judges run unopposed in this state.
Yep.
That's insane. Same with county prosecutors. So let's start finding people in our community, hey, to have them run for them positions so that we can hold these people accountable. Because the ones that we keep re-electing, hey, they're that one step ahead of us where we can't pull them strings because they've built a fence around them. That's how long they've been in those power positions. So to attack the system, it has to be all of us that see it.
Yeah, really quickly, to your question, I have found that if I'm in a situation where we're like, all right, let's just agree to disagree, the first thing I do is hold myself accountable to, did I listen? Did I hear where they're coming from? Am I understanding their point of view and why they think and feel that way? So that's kind of where my accountability comes into play, is in that portion. I would like to hold other people accountable, but just as she said down there, is that you can't expect yourself and others. So it is hard, but.
I need some of these self-checklists you all got.
Yeah.
I think a short and concise answer to your question when it comes to agreeing to disagree and being accountable, when the facts are involved, when you add opinions, being opinionated, you know, then you're not being accountable. I do it all the time myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm arguing with somebody and they throw the facts out and I have to be like, all right, you're right, I'm wrong. I'm taking accountability for that, you know? So whenever the facts are involved and not just an opinion when it comes to agreeing to disagree.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to also add, like, I think, because you also touched on, like, interpersonal accountability and stuff like that, and I think that that is super important when, you know, maybe you're in a situation where the facts aren't necessarily relevant, like you're talking to a friend or something like that, and it's about, like, the words that you've done and the actions that you've taken, and I think that it's really important to sit down and have those one-on-one conversations, kind of like I think we were talking about earlier, where you're in a safe space and you kind of go into it with that mentality, and you can openly talk to one another and, you know, walk away with it and actually continue to reflect. I know I've had conversations like that with my friends, and I think sometimes, I think maybe you mentioned in your question, like when you take those steps for accountability, and I think that they come when you kind of, I think maybe you mentioned something about this, but when you kind of just feel it on your soul, like you have to have these conversations, and I think that that's, like when you get that feeling, it's important to sit down and actually talk and listen, and just have that safe dialogue with one another.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, so I had two thoughts, not really questions, but now I have a third after that question. So my first thought, just to go off of what everyone has said here, is for me, agreeing to disagree ends where human rights begin. So if it's something related to someone's rights and you're disagreeing with it, or you're, you know, like, I can't engage in a conversation like that because it's just, like, that's so much more important to me than, like, feelings that you might have about it. But going off of Aaron's example about the Ukraine war and the meme, there's a word, and it's kind of an unusual word, it's called sonder, and it means the realization that you have that everyone around you is living vivid and complex lives. And it sounds like sort of like a duh, like, yeah, we're all people, but we have this realization over and over and over again, and we have it collectively. So collectively, at times like the Ukraine war, we're seeing this, and collectively, we're saying, oh my God, like, this is a terrible thing happening. How dare, we can't complain because this is happening. Well, you can't not eat dinner because someone in the world is starving. And we have these, and we place a moral judgment on these happenings, like the Ukraine war, and if there's someone who looks like us, looks like the majority or the people in power, we're gonna place more morality and more emphasis on that, and we're gonna hold that in a higher regard and say, this is more important, and this is more deserving of my empathy. So that's sort of a thought I had, and the second thought that I had was allowing empathy. Empathy doesn't negate responsibility. So allowing yourself to be empathetic to someone and to understand that they're a complex person with a vivid life just like you doesn't negate any responsibility that they're owed for their actions. And I think most of you have talked about this, and you see this every day because you're working with people that trigger you because of your past. So, but holding them responsible to what they need to do to overcome that. And a lot of times, maybe Joe and the young lady next to you, your work is helping them overcome those things that are a trigger for you. So, you know, I think we can be empathetic, but it's also like you have to hold people responsible for their actions also.
Thank you.
That's
Nope.
great. That was great.
I like that she called you young.
I know. Thank you.
old.
Thank you for calling me young.
Joe and the young
Good
lady.
looking out.
The elder up there in the
Right.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for doing this. I've really learned a lot tonight, and I know everybody else here has too. I am an educator, so I'm a teacher, and I'm also a young person who believes that teachers are lifelong learners. And I work with a lot of kids. I work with kindergarten through 8th graders every day. And I just wanted to know from you all if you could think of yourself as a child, what you wish your educators had empathized with you. Maybe so some of us can hold those stories with us.
Oh, well, I have something to say.
Uh-oh. I knew her kids when they were younger, just for the record.
But, you know, as a child myself, you know, when I was in school, I was always in trouble. Always in trouble because I asked questions, as I'm doing right now. I always wanted to know, I always wanted to understand, And I mean, that was the era where you weren't really supposed to ask
Right.
questions.
Right.
You're just supposed to just show up and with your pencil
Be
and
quiet.
sit there. And, you know, they would want me to, you know, march in this little line, and I would be doing this instead. And, you know,
Yeah,
my mother's
yeah.
here, she can attest to it. I'm not making this up, you know, and so I got in a lot of trouble. And so I don't know if that's maybe why I try to understand people, because I just remember being always penalized for being myself. Like I was
Yep.
literally being myself, and it was like shamed, right? I mean, I got kicked out of schools for doing all, I mean, just, it's like, you know, she can't be here because she just is,
Right,
you know, talking too much, or, you know, and I challenged adults a lot when I was a child, I will admit that. I didn't understand things, on why things were the way they were, and I asked questions. You know, I went to Catholic school, I went to Christian schools, I went to different schools, and it was questions I had, and adults didn't like kids asking questions, and especially when it challenged their norms, right? So, to answer your question, for me, it's, you know, to be understanding of that child and why. You know, I remember there was a student that I used to work in the school system. I worked at alternative education. I also worked at the juvenile care center. And I remember there would be children there that would not respond to the teachers. Like, they wouldn't do the work, they wouldn't do things. And when you sat down, because I was the one that, like, you know, I'll take them out in the hallway and try to understand what's going on. Like, you know, talk to them one-on-one. And you would find out that, you know, the parents didn't come home last night, right? They had a long night, or they were taking care of their younger siblings, so they were tired because they were up, you know, taking care of their little siblings, kind of like, you know, what you did. And so try to get a little bit more of the why and how, right? Because sometimes we judge people, children, well, I'll say children, but also big children too. We judge them sometimes before we take time to kind of understand why they're doing that, right? Because I was during that era of everybody was ADHD and Ritalin, right? It was like if you didn't sit still, put them on Ritalin,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, wait,
Okay, you're younger than I am.
Yeah.
We just got licks.
oh, you licks? Oh, no,
Go
I
at-
didn't get
we-
licks.
everybody, I was in West Texas in the olden days, and
Oh,
every
you mean
teacher
licks
had,
like, oh, well, yeah.
every teacher
Like
had
with
a
a
paddle,
ruler? Yeah.
and I didn't know anyone that was on any medication for anything. I just knew the one boy that was taken outside and got a
Yeah.
lick every day.
I went to Catholic. I got spanked by
Right,
some of
right.
mine. I've got a lot of stories about that, but yeah.
Well, I was a theater teacher before I moved here for a few years in Austin, Texas, and so I have my degree in theater from the University of Texas at Austin. It's a useless piece of paper now, but
No.
No.
a lot of
Son
student
just got one,
loans.
so don't say that.
We paid the loans off finally. But I just want to say, bless you for teaching the kids,
thank
because I cannot do it. I refuse. People will say, hey, this theater teacher's going to retire. Why don't you do that? No, thank you. No, I start getting like the shakes and the shivers just thinking about like
Yeah.
teaching school again. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I had students that lived in their car. I had students that, you know, were a lot of students who were jumped into the gangs, you know, and a lot of gang violence, and like the younger kids would come to school looking like their little self, and then the next day or the next week after the weekend they would have, you know, their head shaved and their uniform on, and it'd be like, oh, you know, and it was like really, I taught at one of the worst schools in Austin, and I took my kids and I decided I was going to do the one-act plays with them, and I was going to go to the festivals and stuff. And just on the other side of town is like mostly white kids, and like they have an entire auditorium and a sound system, and there's my little kids in their blue jeans, you know, doing the play from World War II in their blue jeans, and zero budget. So I don't know if I was ever successful or not, but that was a big deal, was finding one-on-one time. And I know I reached a few students, but you know, I wanted it to be like Lean on Me or like a movie, and like change the world, and I didn't change the world, but you know, so yeah, I think just like trying as much one-on-one time as you can manage. And someone told me with my son, and I just thought of it again just now with him. Try to see the world from his perspective. Woo. Woo. try to, when he is going up on the curb and hopping up and down, you just go up on the curb with him. Or when he's dancing around, you just start dancing with him.
Yeah.
And I think trying to see it from that student's perspective, or
And we could add that to other people, right?
Yeah.
To big
Right,
people.
right.
We could try to see it from like Trail. Say it real quick. We're gonna end up because we're getting towards the end. Sorry.
That's
I
all
know
right.
it's getting
That's
so
all right.
good.
That's all
It's
right.
getting good.
No, just to piggyback off what you said, every child has a different learning style. So
Yes.
you might have a kid in your class like Aaron or me who just want to talk, but you got to understand those are probably going to be your entrepreneurs. Those are the ones that
That is
need a
true.
little
Right.
bit more special attention,
Right.
and then you have the ones that's a little bit more quiet, you know. So everyone has different learning styles, and if you can identify that, you know, you'll become an excellent teacher, and your children have a lot of success.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing. One thing. This is quick. I applaud you for being a teacher, and a teacher honestly saved my life. So, thank you. It's true.
Well, this is that time that I always get so sad because it's over. Because people start to get a little bit more comfortable, and then we start talking more. And this is when it's time to end. But again, each of these shows have been so beautiful. This is our third one in this series, which I'm so proud of. And they just keep building on each other, right? We talked about societal expectations, talked about bias and judgment, and now we're talking about empathy and tolerance. And next show, we'll be talking about honesty. That's going to be a big one. Yes, that's going to be a big one. So I appreciate you all. This is also our third year celebration. That's why we have our balloons in the back. So I'm going to have our MC come up to close us out. And as she's coming up, I want to quickly say something because she's going to thank these people, but I want to personally thank our team. We have the best team in the Great Lakes Bay region, okay? They are fantastic. All of our team, everybody on our team is so committed. They are so committed to making sure that every time you all come in here, you feel welcomed. It's like inviting somebody into your home. This is our home for a couple of hours. And when you invite somebody into your home, you treat them with respect. You show compassion, and you serve them, and you make sure they're okay. So I want to personally thank all of our team, everybody that helps out, from the sound person to our people on the side, and people that welcome people in. Even some of our team, make sure people get to their cars okay, and that means like some stuff you can't teach. Some stuff people have to just be, right? And so I appreciate that we have a team that is just so committed to the experience. So thank you.
Can I say something?
Oh, yeah.
First off, I would say thank you to everyone for taking the time out to come chill with us for the last couple hours. But to you personally, this was so amazing. It was very classy, organized, and professional. This is probably the best piece of work I've been a part of. So thank you personally. And again, thank you all for taking the time out to be here with us.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're just amazing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for tonight's session. Yes, we want to thank Aaron. We want to thank the Breaking Bread Village. We want to especially say thank you to all of our panelists. Ty, Marcy, Amelia, Melissa, Joe, and Wayne. And thank you to the audience for participating. We love to have your take on things, and I cannot wait to see the honesty session. I'm so excited. Yes, I love this. This is what brings community together. And the one thought that I had was just for everybody, just take a look in the mirror. Open up your heart, and everything else will flow. Like Joe said, healing. You gotta heal. It starts with that, and it's okay to see your inadequacies and embrace it. This is a journey. It's our life's journey, and we can't live without each other. Some walls are thicker, some are thinner, but we all have them, and it's up to us to recognize and acknowledge what they are and then address it. So yes, absolutely. I want to thank Erin again for asking me. I love this. Tell somebody else for the next one. We want this to grow. We want people to learn, and we want people to live and love. And so special thanks to the sound, Jared, Tridge, photography. Special thanks. We're going to have refreshments. You have a choice. So we want to also thank Aviator Cookies and Bites, so popcorn, panelists, audience members, I've already said. Dow, great library. Definitely thank them for housing this amazing project. Yeah, this is awesome. I love it. Okay. Midland Area Culture Awareness Coalition. Special thanks to the businesses for the toilet paper drive. Thank you, everybody who contributed to that. There are so many people in need, and you don't even know, just the simplest of things. So I thank Erin for that just being placed upon her heart, as so many other things that she does. Yeah, and she's going to come with more, and I'm sure she's got so much more support coming for her as well. And yeah, we want to thank Eric. Yes, that music was life. Yes, Eric Radin. We want to thank everybody, and of course, thank you all for coming, and we're going to see you in the next one.
So I want to make sure I tell you all something real quick. Please make sure you take some of those treats, because I do not want to take them home with me. Because I want to be involved, so you all can, pick a popcorn or a cookie, and just know that's our gift to you all. We appreciate you all as we celebrate this third year. We want to make sure that we